So, Originium. In the world of Arknights, Originium is pretty important, and understanding Originium really helps you understand the world in both Arknights and Endfield. So in this video, in a very simple way, as simply as I can, I'm going to try and explain Originium, what it is, and also then kind of how it works and somewhat affects the world. I'm also going to be trying to do this with as little spoilers as possible, specifically for original Arknights. But there's some things that are considered spoilers in original Arknights if you're going in blind, however, that are considered kind of normal basic knowledge or assumed that you are aware of it. The Endfield just says some of the things directly in the game, which would be spoilers for original Arknights at the start of the game. But why should you listen to me? I've been an Arknights player for 5+ years, haven't missed a day, and I'm also an Endfield fan of 30 years, so I like to think I at least know a little bit of something. I do focus on the story and lore aspects quite a lot. But with that out of the way, let's get into the actual explanation. So, Originium, this really cool rock. It's just a cool rock, nothing wrong with it, just a cool rock. This rock is super cool and useful. It's a really good fuel. It's better than like any fuel or energy source you have. You can use it to make like pretty much any kind of technology. You make computer chips out of it. You make like car engines out of it. Like everything in the world of Arknights is pretty much based on some kind of Originium technology. So it's really, really useful. And that's why it's used everywhere. It's also a mineral that can grow really quickly, grows and spreads very quickly and rapidly, and also can be even farmed for more. So it's also quite plentiful. But it's not all good. Originium can actually infect you. It's called erypathy in universe, but essentially it's a situation where you get infected by Originium, by the rock, and then you slowly, if it's not taken care of, you slowly turn into crystals and rock, and eventually you just fully crystallize, which is not great for you. And also, back in Arknights, in the original Arknights, on the planet that Arknights happens on, Originium also causes these massive storms and natural disasters that are called catastrophes. When Originium is dense enough, it can just sort of cause these massive disasters that just ravage the land. So incredibly useful. Pretty much all civilization in Arknights is based on some kind of Originium tech and fuel and power, so very necessary, but can cause some pretty horrible things if you're not careful with it. Because that's one thing, is that it seems to be that by the time of Endfield, when we're on Talos 2 instead of Terra, the original Arknights planet, the medicines and prevention against the infection are much better, so that's much less of a worry. And also, Talos doesn't seem to have catastrophes yet. There's actually a couple files in the game just talking about how there's no catastrophes on Talos, but in theory, if there was enough Originium, they might be possible. But there's some implications that Originium has kind of gone through some changes, which might make it harder for them to even come around at all. So who knows? Maybe we're safe from the terrible disasters. So that's kind of the basics on how Originium works and why it's so important everywhere, and also some of the bad things that come along with it. But then there's a specific thing. This is one of the things that Arknights, it's a big reveal in Arknights, but in Endfield this is considered normal knowledge. It's directly in some of the game files. So Originium is actually a store of information. It is a rock, but it's something that stores information at sort of a fundamental level. So it's not just that, like a computer, it stores information. It can store kind of anything. Anything that Originium consumes and kind of takes over, for example, an infected person, is stored in Originium as information. And this can include then things like heat. It can include, obviously, material, like actual rocks and plants and stuff like that, but it can also include even memories, emotions, heat, cold, things like that. And all of this is then also kind of stored in this essentially cloud storage service. Like everything that's in Originium stored data is then kind of like in this Originium cloud. And this is sometimes called the assimilated universe. A somewhat ominous sounding name, but it's kind of this almost like universe that exists within inside Originium. That's why it's called that. And I'm not going to get into the details on what all of that means, because that's kind of more bigger spoilers for Arknight stuff. But that's how it works. That's a thing, just it exists. Originium is made out of information and data storage. So that's the basics of Originium. Okay? Now, I also wanted to quickly talk about arts, which is essentially the magic system of the Arknights universe, because that is also heavily tied to Originium. It's called Originium Arts. You've seen this in Enfield if you've played it. You have a damage type. There's an entire damage type called Arts. It's essentially magic damage. It's also in Arknights. And the way that this works, the way that magic works in Arknights and Enfield, is essentially a person decoding or like unzipping data from the cloud storage service and then like blasting it out into the real world. That's essentially how it works. So like fire arts or fire magic is you taking information out of the cloud, information about fire from the cloud, and then blasting it at your enemies. Wow. Which means that, for example, then you need like you need an Originium catalyst or something like this, you know, like a wand or a staff and so on. Even actually, fun fact, guns in Arknights are actually just really fancy looking wands. They work the same way. They're actually magic guns. They work based off of magic a lot of the time. And maybe not so fun fact, infected people can actually use arts without like a catalyst, without a wand or anything, because they can use the crystals in their body as the catalyst, but that's really bad for your health. Not recommended. And so how did Originium come to Talos? Originium originates on Terra, the original planet. It was brought over by when people moved from Terra to Talos. It was brought over because the entire civilization is based on it. They kind of need to bring it along to be able to really do anything as they know it. But it doesn't seem to be quite as bad for the infection anymore, and the treatments for infection are much better. Catastrophes are not yet a thing, so there's some implications that it's maybe not as dangerous as it used to be. And also, Originium is very heavily tied to Administrator. Administrator and Originium have kind of a special relationship. It's possible that Administrator is kind of an admin for Originium, for the cloud storage service, which is why they can kind of do some pretty special stuff with it that others can't. But I hope that was a simple enough explanation of what Originium is, and also a bit about the magic system of the world. If this was useful, why don't you give the video a like or something? I never ask for it, but why don't you? Why don't you like it and share it around? And also, if you have other things that you'd maybe like to get explained, that you think maybe the game doesn't present as clearly or as simple as you'd like, let me know in the comments or something. I should have another video coming out specifically on reconveners. I wanted to make this one first because the knowledge from this one is required for the reconveners video. So there should be another video of reconveners coming out specifically. But other than that, goodbye. Bye-bye.